My name's Alex Binney and I have been tattooing for about 30 years now. I had a shop in London, in Clerkenwell, London for 23 years, from 93 until 2016. But I now also have this shop, which is called 1770 in Brighton. My career spans, I lived in America for a short while. I mean, you need to remember that tattooing was completely different in the late 80s. There was nothing. I mean, nothing. There's a few old guys in tattoo shops who are all like way older than me and all like very gruff biker, working class types. So they all hated me because I was like the new middle class guy, you know, who had been to art school. There's a few set groups of people that would generally get tattoos, known to be what you might call criminal or criminal underclass, plus the military, sailors and soldiers, plus what you might call a kind of underground fetish alternative art scene, which of course is where I came from. So I did performance art and what have you at art school, and I was going to fetish clubs and I was into kind of like underground music, getting tribal tattoos, getting piercings, going to nightclubs and dancing around wearing very little, etc. They always say music stars, rap stars and rockers, LA hair rockers all had tattoos, and then that went into sports stars, so some of the American basketball players, and then of course here footballers. Now it's almost unusual to see a footballer that hasn't got a full sleeve. And these people are household names, and so as that's gone on, tattooing has been less and less. It doesn't horrify straight society in the way that it did. Now it's almost acceptable, and to be honest, I've been part of that. I guess some people would say that I was partly the fault. It's people like me that made that happen.
I think in England it's quite more acceptable to have tattoos simply because it's part of your culture, it's built into the culture of England, you know.
So I used to be really self-conscious when I first come to the UK and I get both of my sleeves done.
Sailors coming into ports, getting tattoos, kind of moving that type of art style around the world and bringing it here to port cities and stuff.
Over time I kind of grew into my own skin, kind of work more comfortably, and I don't really care anymore. I don't care what other people think. Yeah.
My name is Mim, is my work name, but my actual name is Miriam. But I go after Mim as far as Mim tattoo artist sort of thing. I've been tattooing, it's coming up to about 8.5 years now, including my apprenticeship, which is pretty cool. And I work, this is my home base, this is Just Add Ink Tattoo Studio. So from my experience, there's definitely a difference between a tattoo artist and a tattooist. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think some people have been in this industry a really long time, and I think there was a huge chunk where it was all about, you go into a studio, you pick a design off the wall, you know, like I'll have a number 42, and you sit down, you wait your turn. This studio itself used to be one of them studios. This was a walk-in based studio. So there was a really big wall along here, and this whole area here was a reception area. And then it was a small area for tattooing because it was just loads of people sat waiting. Tattoo artist is someone who approaches it a bit differently, approaches it from a custom standpoint. And I have had customers over the last few years that, through seeing other pieces I've done like that I've been successful with them, or they've got a bit of notoriety, they will come forward and give me free rein. So like, for example, one of my favourite pieces would be the back piece that I'm doing on Barbara at the moment, where it's, you know, a human form of skeleton that was free-handed on, all drawn on with Sharpie. So I had to bend her over and find the bones and feel them out and things like this. But then it's filled with flowers, and you've got that kind of almost grotesque with beautiful. But as long as I can add nature into a piece, genuinely, that's just what makes me really happy. I did a traditional apprenticeship, which meant that I started with coil machines, and one of the first things I had to do in my apprenticeship was learn how to build tattoo machines. Years later, I then started using rotary machines, and rotaries are based on a motor or a cog system, depending on what type of rotary you go for. There's a few different types nowadays that they're very much kind of plug in and play. It literally is that you plug them in, get them to the speed you want, and then just do your job.
I'm Angel Nutter. I've been tattooing for nearly 5 years now. I've been at Angelic Hell, where we are now, for nearly a year. I'd say I sort of do quite a lot of like neo-traditional, also quite a lot of fine line, like girly flowery tattoos as well. But I started off, when I was an apprentice, I did a lot of just traditional. But I don't know, I guess sort of working in different studios and with different artists, and things like Instagram as well, like you can develop your style. There's a lot of sort of stuff that I get asked to do a lot of, anything sort of floral and botanical is a sort of a really common thing to get asked for. I don't know what the weirdest. I've tattooed like a slug with a burning church on the back of it. That's the first and only time I've been asked to do that, but yeah. That was a weird one.
Tattoos can have a lot of meaning and a lot of importance to you, and as far as tattoos on myself, I've had a lot of ones that are very random.
I have got an aubergine emoji tattooed on my leg. I've also got a sandwich as well tattooed on my leg.
This is it's one of the new things people do is they get these things called blast overs, which is tattoos on top of other tattoos. I've got a few, but this was the coffin from my shop Into You, right at the end of my shop in London.
So this is a portrait of my dad, and there is a lot of history behind this actual photograph. He's having his ear pulled, so he's not squinting for no reason. His ear is being pulled and he's pulling a funny face. I had to be here because I tattoo with this arm, and I need my dad looking over me every day and watching what I'm doing and making sure I don't mess up. So I pretty much put everything down to any success I've had is because he's here keeping an eye on what I'm doing and making sure I don't mess up, because he pretty much did that all my life anyway. So
my head, I was always very proud of. My head was done by Horiyoshi 3, who is possibly the world's most famous tattoo artist now. He's a Japanese man in his 70s, early 70s, who still tattoos largely by what we call long stick Japanese. It's complicated. I have a kind of theory that there are what I see as three main tattoo styles, which are tribal, Japanese, and Western traditional, which everyone thinks of as, hearts and swallows and anchors and what have you. That's what you might call Western traditional. Japanese style is, dragons, phoenixes, cherry blossom, all those big swirly background bodysuits that people have seen. That's what you might call traditional Japanese. And so a lot of my work, or what I became known for back in the day, was a sort of contemporary fusion of those three main elements. That has been my main focus in my career, and still is.
Is probably, I would say I do avant-garde work because I tend to combine styles together. You could say I'm quite greedy. I love doing quite a few different styles. I love doing Japanese, I love doing black work, I love doing dot work, I love doing black and grey realism, full colour realism. Usually, as long as there's anything nature involved, I'm pretty happy. So that's like my main line. It's really the idea of bringing something new and bringing something different to a piece, approaching it in a different way, and just trying to be a little bit more creative with it. I mean, not that other styles aren't creative, but avant-garde, it literally gives you the chance to just do whatever you want. Try anything that's completely bonkers and put those things together and see if it works, which is probably what pulls me towards it more, because I love the chance to do that. What people tend to forget with tattoos is it's one of the oldest art forms that we have. You can go all the way back to cavemen and things like this. Tattoos were originally a way of marking your ranking in a tribe and things like this. The tattoos have always been around, and tattoos have always been popular.
I definitely think tattooing's always been an art form sort of anyway, but it's definitely sort of more fashionable and things now. We sort of get clients occasionally that will pop in sort of with their friends and they just want a matching tattoo. And it's almost like, it's sort of like they're going to go and get their nails done together or something. It's almost like a little memory just for them, which I think is actually really cool. I know a lot of artists don't like doing like tiny little tattoos, but it's just as important, I feel.
I would say that although tattooing has gotten more and more mainstream, it is still, I would say, a genuine voyage of discovery, or it can be a genuine voyage of discovery for someone who's young and is exploring their life, exploring their body, exploring their relationship with themselves, maybe with their sexuality, maybe with their peers, maybe with their parents. I think it's still a great tool for people to play with, you know, even though it is more acceptable. It's still a personal journey for people, and I would say that, you know, no matter how mainstream it seems to have gotten, tattooing is still a wonderful, beautiful thing, and I still think it's maintained its inherent power.